Investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The firm only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. SEC registration is not an endorsement of the firm by the Commission and does not mean that the advisor has attained a specific level of skill or ability.
Welcome to Navigating Retirement with Rick Durkee.
And welcome into the program. This is Navigating Retirement with Charleston and the Low Country's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial future. He is president and founder of the Coastal Financial Planning Group, Rick Durkee, once again joining us. Rick, welcome back.
Hey, good morning, and good morning to all of you here in the Low Country and throughout the United States of America. God bless America.
Good to see your face, Rick. We appreciate your time and providing the guidance and the perspective that you do each and every week here on the program. Navigating Retirement, been a staple in Charleston for more than 18 years now, moving to the podcast and getting those listenership numbers up, subscribers. I think people are going to the website, cfpgroup.com, and subscribing to cfpgroup.biz. It's a .biz domain name, and subscribing there. I always, that's a good thing actually to remind folks. It is a .biz domain name, so a little
yeah.
cfpgroup.biz.
And it is a business, so why not .biz, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But you can subscribe there to the Navigating Retirement podcast, ladies and gentlemen, if you've found this information helpful. And I encourage you actually to subscribe and then also to share the links, because your friends, neighbors, and loved ones, they could probably benefit from the information that Rick Durkee shares each and every week here on the program as well. Rick, here we are. I mean, it's good to see a human face at this point in time, but we're still quarantining and social distancing and limited number of people in the stores at any given time. So really not a whole lot of human interaction here except in the household. But it's kind of the new reality we're facing.
It is. It's the new normal. And hey, it's the new rules, let's say, okay? The new rules of how we live our lives. And we used to have a workshop that we did back about 10 years ago called the New Rules of Retirement. And Lord, do we know that these rules have changed now for most people that are planning for their retirement. So I'm sure we'll cover some of those topics today.
Yeah, well, it seems like we're suddenly in this new reality, and I know that we will come out of it, but there's also going to be real and lasting change here, Rick. I mean, the economy has been deeply impacted. Unemployment is soaring. I think the last figures I saw was some 17 million Americans since the start of the pandemic have filed for unemployment. Stimulus measures are here in an attempt to help. Want to talk about the extent of those stimulus, the Fed releasing yet another round, I think another more than $2 trillion. So more than $4 trillion easily has been released for stimulus measures. But what are the impacts? Who is going to benefit? How much benefit is there going to be? And then maybe more long-term, is this going to have negative implications on savers and investors?
Yeah, well, just to briefly skim over it, because I'm sure many people have gotten information overload on the internet and everything about the stimulus and the opportunities that are available. I think I'd like to talk about fundamentals here in this regard, Pete. We have the opportunity here to be able to get through this point so that we don't have to worry now about how we're going to pay bills or how, as a business owner, we're going to pay payroll or pay our fixed expenses. We'll be able to get through this 6 to 8 week period here where we are sequestered and not have to worry about, hey, how am I gonna pay these bills and how am I gonna get things started back up and everything. And I'd like to say fundamentally what we need to do is take advantage of this opportunity. I mean, we have a great opportunity here to be able to sit back, evaluate, see where maybe we were spending money in the wrong places, going out to eat too much.
Sure.
Now with it, we've gotten used to cooking at home and spending a little bit more time with the families and whatnot. It's not a bad thing, is it? And we're not working as much. When we're working from home, we find that we can be much more efficient when we're focused and we get, down to the point here and we look at what needs to get done that day. We can get a lot more done in a day. So were we being efficient with our time before? But fundamentally what the government is doing, and they're giving us stimulus here so that we can look over the hill here and look at the other side and say, hey, we can be prepared for this, to look and seize those opportunities. Share a quick story with you. My grandfather was a real estate developer up in Chicagoland, up back prior to the Great Depression. He built a lot of apartment homes, and he lost all of his wealth. He was pre-Depression, was a millionaire, lost all his money and wealth during the Depression. However, he was positioned perfectly to come back and bounce back after the Great Depression and become a millionaire again in the 40s, in
Wow.
the 1940s.
Wow.
So, and he had a vision that he could look on the other side and say, how can I be positioned properly to be able to take advantage of the opportunity? There's always opportunity after when bad things happen, there's always opportunity. If we look at what those opportunity for improvements are, OFIs, we call them in the ISO 9001 world. Okay.
Well, it's funny, Rick. It's almost a behavioral thing. They say, it's easy to save the next 100,000 after you hit your first 100,000, and it's kind of a characteristic trait that for those entrepreneurial individuals, if they've had the ability to have that kind of success and become a millionaire at one point in time, I've heard that story or similar stories that those type of people have lost it all and made it all back. It's kind of a behavioral trait and characteristic. And I think that there are other things, not all of us hit that, but there are some behavioral characteristics that all of us need to exude and implement to help us make it through times like this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so we have to look at things and we have to say, okay, how did we do this last time? And how could we do it better? That's all we have to think. How could we do it better this time and get there even faster? So this is the opportunity you're given with those checks that are coming to you and being direct deposited. For those of you that religiously filed your tax returns and last year did an e-filing, you're getting the money zapped right into your account. What a better way to, wake up one morning and say, wow, there's an extra, $1,200 or so. Now, on the business side, there's two opportunities that the business owners have. One is the PPP program that you have to underwrite through a banking relationship that you already have. So talk to your local banker and you can get 8 weeks worth of payroll. You have to justify, and show records and all of that, but you can get that as a stimulus.
As long as you keep your employees on. This is specifically intended to quash the tidal wave coming onto the
unemployment.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think, really fundamentally, again, Pete, if we look at the fundamentals here, if all of our employees right now are working from home and maybe we don't have business to do normally, what they normally would do, what can you do right now to prepare for when we go back to work? What can you do now to position yourself properly? And what can you give to the company that you work for that's keeping you on the payroll and keeping you out of harm's way? What can you do to make sure that you are offering the best that you can give now when you might have some idle time of not doing what you normally do? And how can you position yourself so you can find opportunity that you can work on during these next maybe 4 to 6 weeks that will help your company and your position thrive in the future?
Thinking ahead, thinking outside the box.
That's
right.
And
Rick, I mean, it's been shown that during times of emergency or crisis, a lot of new and innovative companies are developed and come into existence.
Absolutely. And that's the exciting thing here, Pete. If we think about that from that standpoint, that's what I wake up in the morning thinking about. I'm like, wow, I thought about this a little bit, but what if I did this? What if I tweaked this just a little bit more? And then I say, okay, now the difference between an idea, and its reality is writing it down to make it happen.
Execution.
Execution. And that's what we talk about all the time, right? With our income plans that we set up for retirees. Now, let's go back to the two packages that are available for business owners as stimulus, and we'll cut on to the next section. PPP through your local banking relationship, EIDL, which is the Economic Injury disaster loan program through the SBA. Those two programs are available. There's plenty of information online. Get on it, folks. Even if you apply as a business owner, even if you apply for the EIDL and you're declined, I have heard through reputable contacts that I have that money, a portion of that money that you applied for may even be offered in a grant so that you wouldn't have to pay it back, that it would be a forbearance. So here we go. Opportunity again. You might have your employees on payroll. Your business may not have suffered, okay? But as our president said, if we're going to come out better on the other side of this as a business owner, we certainly can look at this as, okay, well, we can pay our payroll, but maybe we could use this money that we lost because we aren't bringing in that revenue for the next 12 months. We could use this money to invest in some R&D to figure out what the best R&D, research and development, to figure out what is the best on the other side positioning that we can have so we can take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and Rick, this message there, this part of the message specifically for small business owners, 500 or fewer employees. But if you are an employee and you know that your company is having trouble or maybe being forced into some difficult places, bring this to your employer's attention. Make sure that they are aware of these programs. So, employers don't want to lay off qualified, skilled, trained employees. That part of the business, training and bringing people up to speed on that's the most difficult part of they don't want to let you go. Bring this to their attention. Make sure that they're aware of that.
Yeah. Opportunity for you to help your employer. Yes. And so then another point that I'd like to bring up here, Peter, is the fact that if we look at these opportunities again, you may be in a position where you're going to be downsized, okay? You're not going to have the same position, or you may not have a position at all to go back to. So let's take this opportunity where you got your stimulus check now, and let's invest that into maybe some online learning programs or something that you can do. Think about what the jobs are that are going to be when we go forward.
Sure.
Get some training in that now, or start thinking about who that runs one of those businesses that you can send your letter to or a resume to or anything and say, hey, when this thing gets cranking back up and you're searching for employees because you don't have enough, I want to be part of that employee search. And so my wife, this is a great example. My wife has been a 36-year employee for Delta Airlines, and she is on a 4-month leave right now. And she's asking me, she's saying, Rick, do you think this is the end of my career? And I said, the airline industry is not going to be the same going in to this as it is going to be coming out. And so we're looking at that, and we're trying to find out how, what opportunities she could look at that she could use her experience for to transition into something that she wants to do now. And just look at this. It is change, and I know change can be scary, but it's also opportunity where you're in control if you think about it that way. Don't wait until this passes. You'll be behind the curve.
Well, retraining, retooling, adapting to new skills is not always the easiest of tasks, Rick. And how quickly is the population able to do that? Do you feel, we've had this temporary downturn and the market took a 30% hit in value and it bounced about halfway back up. Looking into the future, do you think this is more of a long-term downtime? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I just got to see with that many people out of work, unemployment, again, just skyrocketing, that this has to have some longer-term recessionary feel to it. To you,
it will for certain sectors, okay? And let's think about fundamentals again here. I think maybe we should title this show "The Fundamentals of Planning for Your Future." When we think about the fact that there were certain necessary, or what is it called? Essential and non-essential businesses, right? That opened. So you were either let go or shut down whether you wanted to or not, if you are a non-essential business. If you're non-essential, then that means that you could really think about something that maybe is more essential on the other side of this. If this was equated to the Great Depression or the Great Recession or any of those times where people had to adjust and businesses had to adjust and employees had to adjust, here we are right now in this situation where we can adjust our thought process and get positioned to be in the right place at the right time. This is the right time. This is exciting time for us to be able to look at the opportunity that's ahead. If you just think that way, it's glass is half full or glass is overflowing. That's the way I look at it. We need to think about it's half full.
Well,
okay?
I think
At
that
least,
even
at
for
least.
for some of those non-essential businesses, though, Rick, and I can just think of a few off the top of my head because I hear about them at home. But the stylists for cutting hair, the nail salon folks, they have been forced to close. But when things return to normal, the line is going to be around the building for those folks because not deemed as essential doesn't mean that people don't want that service. They are going to need that service, and I'm hearing from my wife daily, I wish I could go get my hair cut. I wish I could go get my nails done. So, some amount of business that has gone offline is going to come back stronger than ever. But
True.
in the meantime, right, I think we need to think about personally our behaviors, trimming down, budgeting, having that emergency fund, even though we're in the midst of the emergency, having that emergency fund still put back is going to be essential. Anything else behaviorally that you feel would be beneficial for folks right now?
Well, again, I would say that the behavior needs to be psychological. Okay. I know this can be depressing. I know that it can be daunting and overwhelming. And I know that it can be extremely depressing. So we have to, turn the table here a little bit and we have to ask ourselves questions. What's going on in my head right now? What am I thinking about? And what are you asking yourself? If you're asking yourself, oh, why does this always happen to me? And you've got a sigh. Okay. You know what your brain's going to do? It's going to tell you why this always happens to you. It's going to give you enforcement, and you're going to think more about why it happened to you. Think about, what can I do to take this situation and make it better for me? Okay. And you just asked your brain a question, what can I do? Your brain is going to be led towards positive thinking.
Action. Yep.
And action, exactly. And so here's the next step after you think something. Write it down. And there's a book called Write It Down, Make It Happen. I hope that it sells 1 million copies after this podcast goes out. Write it down, make it happen. I wrote it down and made it happen. Okay. And I'll just share this story with you. I wrote down about 17 years ago, I wrote down that I sought a flower in bloom for me. Okay. And that was, I was looking for my wife. Okay. I was looking for my wife at that point in my life. Do you know that I married a violet?
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote it down.
And even though that wasn't...
I don't know why I wrote that down. I don't know why, but it just came off my pen onto the paper, and then I married a violet 2 years later.
It's funny how the world works. Rick, I think around New Year's at one point in time, it was several years ago, it was 2017 or 18, somewhere in there, I wrote down a list of goals that I had. And, I didn't even really go back to that list. I made the list. I lost it in some paperwork, and I was going through that paperwork just recently here this year. I pulled out that list and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is my list of goals from a couple years ago. Looking at the list, check. I had accomplished nearly everything on that list. Now, these weren't...
Wasn't that gratifying, Pete?
It was so great. Just saying, wow, the goals I had and now the progress that I've made, things are achievable and obtainable. They weren't outlandish goals. They were all things that could be done, but I had to write it down and then think positively and execute on those things. And the first step of writing it down certainly helped.
Yeah, certainly. Write it down and then make a plan. Okay. Step by step,
So
little steps of that plan.
I want to turn here, Rick, because we talk about the financial confidence that we are striving for here on this program, and
Yeah.
how having the plan is what leads to achieving the financial confidence. And you're always a big proponent for having a specific written income plan.
hmm
And so
Yeah.
writing that down, putting it in writing, you feel is step number one for a confident retirement?
Oh yeah, because we all learn different ways. Okay, some of us learn auditorily. We hear something and then we feel confident that we can do it. Some of us learn visually. Okay, and we see it. And when you write it down, you see it. Okay. Others of us are more kinesthetic. We, like feel it. We have to be part of it. And so there's three ways that we can learn. But that way that we mentioned second, visualization is very, very strong to create reality. If we visualize, if we write it down, and then we go into the next step, we create reality. Now, share a quick story with you. Had a meeting with a doctor this week. He was or has been a client for several years, and we had a retirement income plan, and we had to do a Zoom meeting. And the retirement income plan was right up on the screen. And I found the great opportunity here for us to see a written plan while we were talking. And that's what we were focused on. And we could see his expenses. We could see his income. We could see what the net was and how much extra there was going to be each month. We could see where we had that invested for the future, for his legacy. And we wrote that all the way out, and we looked at it out to age 100. And it was amazing how a doctor knows a lot about what they do. It was amazing for him to breathe a sigh of relief to know that he had this all under control now in one simple little place called a retirement income plan that he knew then he was very confident that he would be able to achieve his goals.
Well, just having that ability to share that kind of information and that guidance. Doctors, great in their field, but you're in a respected field.
He gave me a little bit of COVID advice, so yeah. I got my money's worth out of him too. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. But you're not stepping into his shoes and performing operations, nor probably desire to perform them on yourself.
Yep.
But likewise, the respect of lack of knowledge or understanding maybe isn't the correct word, but the desire for expert perspective in coming to you. And that's what you do each and every day there at Coastal Financial Planning Group, Rick.
Every day. And it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, or it doesn't matter if you're an employee that got laid off because of the coronavirus and you were working in a restaurant serving tables. You still need to have that plan in your mind about how you're going to get to retirement, and a written income plan is going to help you do that. It's an easy process, folks, to go through. We call it a 3-step review. It takes about 3 meetings to do that, and you'll be well on your way. And we offer that service complimentary.
Why the 3 meetings? What are the steps of the meetings there,
okay.
Rick?
All right, it's easy. The first step is a get to know you meeting. We're just going to spend about maybe an hour. We can do it on a Zoom meeting, and we'll find out what your concerns are. And then when we take that information and we send out a little confidential review package so that we can review those notes before that meeting. But when we go over that information, and I say when our case preparation department, our CFP, Frank Hutto, who's retired and a consultant for the business, and his mentee, Nathan White, go over that plan along with me. We create some ideas to address the concerns that came up in that meeting, and we discuss those ideas in meeting number 2. Then we get some fine-tuning on those ideas, and we then transition them into recommendations. It's our first step of having a written income plan. And then we actually create an income plan with a program that we use here at the Coastal Financial Planning Group to give us that vision out into the future. And then so that's reviewed in maybe a second meeting or a third meeting. And then a third or maybe even a fourth meeting is implementation, where people can see where they can take their first steps to get on the road to a safe and comfortable retirement.
What are your highest priorities on the list of trying to help people address through that planning process? What do you feel is the benefit, or maybe what do you feel is most commonly overlooked without such a planning review and written plan?
Well, okay. When we look at the three-step review and break it down in that first meeting, we are going to also evaluate three things in that first meeting. We're going to look at your income, and we're going to look at how it's being taxed. Okay, so we're going to review income taxes, and we're going to see where we could possibly find some money slipping through the cracks. While we're looking at the income, we're also going to project out into the future how it looks, so that it's stable throughout the remainder of your life. The income plan will tell us if we're not addressing the number one fear of most that enter into retirement, and that is, will my money last as long as I do?
And that's out of our discussion, something that has always struck me as surprising and kind of not a no-brainer, but something that people need to understand is that so many people are fearful of running out of money. So many people understand the need for reliable income, yet so few people actually have a plan that addresses that concern and that need.
Yeah, it's because we're trained to save, and accumulate, but we're not taught how to distribute the money. And there's risk involved with that. And that's the third thing we look at in that first meeting. What risks do we have that we need to address so that we make sure that we accomplish the goals and we address the concerns that our potential clients have at the Coastal Financial Planning Group? I say potential. Most people are pretty much bought in after that first meeting because they see we have a process, we see that is going to be worked through, and that they will find that in the end it's in their best interest.
Well, understanding that there is a need for income, then defining exactly what that income need is, the income gap, making sure that you've got an appropriate cash flow rate or withdrawal rate from your assets to meet and exceed that income gap, understanding what portion of the portfolio is going to be required to dedicate to that purpose, and then what is left over and discretionary. Going through that process, Rick, gives people the confidence of knowing what they can afford to keep at risk in the market and what they can be aggressive with, and then what portion of their portfolio they need to have positioned for principal protection and lifetime retirement income protection.
Exactly. And so it's an approach that takes those three meetings to learn all of that, but it is what we call a process of discovery. That means you're learning, we're teaching, we're sharing our wealth of knowledge that we've built over the last 18 years, as you mentioned, at the Coastal Financial Planning Group. And we take that information and we provide a plan to you that when people walk out of this office or now on a Zoom meeting, like that doctor we had, I hear that sigh of relief. Yeah. I do actually hear the breath coming out of them or see the relief in their face that says, I have a plan now. I don't have to worry about
the shoulders is where I keep my stress.
Yeah. Right. Let them down. Let them down.
Yeah. Well, Rick, we covered a lot of ground on today's program. I mean, going all the way from scary numbers about this crisis and then where there is some assistance coming or available for individuals, for small businesses, what we believe the outlook for this a little longer term might be, and then brought it back home, I think, to individual planning. And you talked about opportunities, even amidst crisis and in times like these. I think this is the opportunity. If you didn't have one, if you don't have that confidence in your situation and your plan today, it's probably because you didn't have that plan in place, the type that Rick Durkee described. And here's the opportunity to get such a plan, is that Rick Durkee and his team at the Coastal Financial Planning Group, ladies and gentlemen, they provide information here on the program, but they provide you the opportunity to get that plan put together. And if you'd like to take advantage, pick up the phone, give them a call, 800-491-6220. That's 800-491-6220. You can learn more. You can start out. You can get additional educational resources on the website, cfpgroup.biz. cfpgroup.biz. But Rick, that's truly your motivation in your business, is to help people have that kind of financial confidence regardless of conditions because they have that plan in place.
Why God put me on this planet, Peter, to help people that need help. And we welcome your problems or your concerns or your worries, because our satisfaction is when you leave with that plan in place, you won't have those worries anymore. You'll be you'll be on a road to just a much less stressful time period. And again, I know it's stressful for you right now during these times, but we can take advantage of these times right now. Let's pick up the phone, give us a call, as you said, and let's do this plan now while you're sitting at home. We got a couple weeks here probably before you got to go to work. Let's do it now.
Well, yeah,
Carpe diem, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Seize the day.
800-491-6220 to give Rick Durkee and the Coastal Financial Planning Group a call, set up that time for the virtual meeting and review, or even just ask a couple quick questions over the phone. 800-491-6220. Rick, good seeing you. Always appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Navigating Retirement. Check out cfpgroup.biz every week and get a new episode of Navigating Retirement.
Catch more of Rick Durkee and Navigating Retirement by visiting cfpgroup.biz.
While we believe the information in this broadcast is reliable, we cannot guarantee its accuracy. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. Please consult your financial professional before making any investment decisions. Investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor. SEC registration is not an endorsement of the firm by the Commission and does not mean that the advisor has attained a specific level of skill or ability. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.